God punished Adam and Eve for eating the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden by making them feel shame for being naked and then tossing them out of paradise and basically forcing them to work for a living. We've all been suffering since, both in terms of having to wear clothes and having to go into the office. So I'd like a little catharsis here and add a little humor to this scourge that we call work. Hello and welcome to the Bald and Bloviating Podcast. I am your bald host, Mookie Spitz, and I'll be bloviating about bosses and coworkers. Let's start with the 4 types of asshole boss and offer a few workplace strategies for dodging their bullets until you get fired, quit, or maybe get promoted. Let's face it, if we didn't have to, none of us would work. Nobody is doing anybody any favors, especially when we have power over others or others have power over us. Pecking orders reign supreme now and forever. I've worked since high school. My first job as a short order cook at Wags, a relic of the late 70s when Walgreens, trying to up the lunch counter at Woolworths, did a line extension into full-service diners. Really, really. My first boss was an officious fellow with slicked back blonde hair, a poofy porn mustache, and an altitude of about 5 feet nothing. An omeletier extraordinaire, his claim to fame was flipping egg yolk like a motherfucker. Satan preferred being the king of hell rather than a servant in heaven, and this guy felt the same way about managing the grill in a diner of a pharmacy. As such, he was my first official asshole boss, and I've had many, many since. Over the years, I began to notice that asshole bosses could be distilled into 4 distinct categories. Their horrible characteristics and overall disdain for human decency often overlapped. But you get the picture. Here goes. Let me share them with you. Asshole boss number 1, the evil superstar. The classic example is a winning salesperson who gets promoted to sales manager. The Peter principling is obvious since the exact qualities that made them a great seller de facto make them the worst manager ever. Regardless their specific background, this type of asshole boss feels their shit doesn't stink because they've already proven their worth in droves. That gives them carte blanche to treat all their subordinates like garbage. The feeling that their profession, the company, and team owes them is made manifest in everything they do and say, which is usually irrelevant to getting anything done because all they care about is their own self-interest. The result is they're overpaid and in the way, and eventually realize how useless they've become, destroying an already frail ego. They hide their pointlessness by belittling their staff, who hate them but have no choice but to kiss their ass. Evil superstars are appeased by kowtowing to their insatiable narcissism, but the more you feed them, the hungrier they get. Eventually, they quit for more money and less responsibilities and devour you along the way. The pros of the evil superstar. You know exactly what you get, an insatiable, self-righteous tyrant. They're also great at the job you suck at, so they could be superb coaches and mentors if they only gave a shit about you and the firm, which they do not. Here's some of the cons. They were superstars thanks to their ability to win over others with their bullshit. They apply these same skills to win you over, which never goes well because you are nothing to them but food they binge on and barf right out. Asshole boss, number 2, the clueless bully. On the other end of the asshole boss spectrum is the loser who figured out how to get promoted. They tend to have low competence and few useful skills, aside from being adroit at kissing ass above and kicking ass below. An imposter suffering from an acute and justified imposter complex, this pernicious type of asshole boss is always on the defensive. Paranoid that at any moment they'll be exposed, they do their very best to expose you. Since they have no idea what they're doing and their title wasn't deserved, they are highly skilled at pointing out your weaknesses, reminding you that if it weren't for their kindness and tolerance, you'd be demoted or fired. They start believing their own lies and turn obvious defense mechanisms, laughable stalling tactics, and elaborate smokescreens designed to hide their own incompetence into managerial acumen proving their self-worth. Clueless bullies are consumed by covering their own asses, so fly under the radar until they notice you exist, which by then is too late. Eventually, the company notices they are worthless, but chances are you'll be fired first. The pros. Since they suck at their job and have no idea what's going on, you can use your modicum of competence to do their work for them. At first, they'll appreciate it, but then feel like you're rubbing it in and fire you anyway. Cons. Remember that their only real skills are 1, keeping a job, and 2, getting promoted. As such, ancillary abilities include doing whatever it takes to accomplish 1 and 2, namely stab a lot of backs, yours no exception. Asshole boss number 3, the backstabbing best friend. Consider this brand of asshole boss an inversion of type 2, equally clueless, yet instead of being an overt bully, this one is your best buddy. From the second you get hired, they are so nice to you that you can't even believe it. Your amazing good luck starts to fade, though, when you realize that their acts of kindness are pure manipulation. Designed to con you into thinking they care about you, their hustle is insidious because it works so damn well. By creating an atmosphere of apparent ease, they disarm you completely. Your guard let down, you are more vulnerable than ever. They are patient. They play the long game. They're always scheming, ready to pounce. And pounce they do when you least expect it. Masters of the bum rush, their attacks are spectacularly effective because they've conditioned you through their fake kindness and faux concern to relax into defenselessness. Under attack, your own defense mechanisms take over, defaulting to the familiar. Maybe if you're nicer to them than they were to you, they'll be nice to you again. Indeed, they will, but not until they eviscerate you first. The pros. The good news is this asshole boss is sweet at least 90% of the time, maybe more. The bad news is the instant they sense your guard is as low as it can go, they attack. Rinse and repeat until they quit, or you're fired. The cons. More than any of the other kind of asshole bosses, the best friend backstabber can deeply destroy your self esteem and even negatively impact your other relationships, especially with romantic partners. Asshole boss number 4, the passive aggressive weasel. A combo of asshole boss types 1, 2, and 3, the weasel is a mashup of all their worst tendencies: incompetent, manipulative, and defensive. You never know what you're going to get each day, but you can be sure that it's gonna be bad. This asshole boss thrives on miscommunication, misinformation, and lack of transparency. Holding their cards close to their vests, their hand is usually as bad as their poker skills, so less is more often than not. Sometimes nice, sometimes mean, their unpredictability and fickleness are designed to confuse and disarm you. Unable to make a decision because they have no balls, their incompetence is part of their strategy. By always keeping you guessing, they feel they can keep you in your place. Practicing what's sometimes called mushroom management, you are kept in the dark and fed bullshit so you don't make waves and have no power. Nature abhors a vacuum, so you might feel compulsion to fix things. At least create some clarity in the workplace. Don't. The less things make sense, the more comfortable the weasel feels. They thrive off your failures. Pros. Flourishing in a dysfunctional environment, weasels not only fail at management, but they resist any effort to improve efficiency. Such a work culture is perfect if you're lazy and incompetent too. Milk it as long as you can. Cons. Eventually, the gig becomes excruciating for everyone, including the passive aggressive weasel. The team is doomed to fail. The allure of inactivity might appeal at first, but get out before the tugboat sinks. The intractable heaviness of working. From the homeless untouchable in Bangladesh at the bottom to Jeff Bezos and his shareholders at the top, everyone has a boss, and all of them are assholes. Darwin always wins biologically and organizationally, and we all have to endure. Get a job you love, goes the cliche but true meme, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. The subtext there is get a job without a boss, if that's even possible, and you'll never have to deal with another asshole. David Byrne of Talking Heads fame is on a reunion tour with the band, part of which seems like an apology tour. David's been on talk shows confessing to being an asshole boss. I'd put him in the first evil superstar category. In ways, David was even worse because that was early in his burgeoning career, and he didn't get the chance yet to Peter Principle himself into his calypso music phase. He was an evil superstar who was actively winning. I'm no Mr. Big Suit, but can relate. I've been there too. I've felt self righteous and unappreciated, have also been an asshole boss. Is there a solution? I don't think so, aside from buying lots of Bitcoin in 2011. Now that we've taken a look at the asshole boss, let's dive down to our peers and talk about the 4 types of backstabbing colleague. Workplace strategies for dodging their knives until you become their boss or they become yours. Colleagues are worse than clients, which, if you spent more than a nanosecond in corporate America, is a bold statement. Follow the money points everyone in the direction of endless workplace nightmares, made all the more awful by shady team members ostensibly there to help. Backstabbing colleagues are actually worse than asshole bosses. Ironic since shit tends to roll downhill. Hope springs eternal that professional colleagues act as a useful hedge and support mechanism. Your team sandwiched between those who pay the man and those who pay you. But no such luck. Speaking from experience and corroborated by anyone willing to honestly tell you about their painful work history, colleagues, especially those at or near your level of power in any hierarchy, are the worst people to work with. Likely the worst people you'll ever have the misfortune to meet and know, let alone work with. That is unavoidably true because we are conditioned like chimpanzees in a zoo cage to fight for finite resources. Rather than compete for worthy ape goals such as ripe bananas or fertile mates, humans in offices instead duke it out to spread, as Richard Dawkins calls them, our selfish memes. Under the guise of cooperation, colleagues battle for attention and authority. Their weapons are a mix of deception, intimidation, cunning, and subterfuge. Their food chain ascent is blocked by you, yet they must collaborate until they crush and step over you, or you do it to them. Over the years, I've worked with 4 types of asshole boss, none of them as terrible as the mildest backstabbing colleague. Although each peer was horrible in their own way, I've been able to identify 4 types as a sort of public service, an homage to the worst experiences in my whole goddamn life. Let's roll. Backstabbing colleague 1, the manipulative schemer. Let's start with the most dangerous type of backstabbing colleague, those who closely scrutinize every nuance of every interaction. Their obsession with detail isn't to provide greater benefit to the team, but to identify moments of deep vulnerability that expose exploitable weaknesses. Akin to a thief convinced everyone steals, manipulative schemers assume all their peers are manipulatively scheming too, which is, of course, true. The other 3 types of backstabbing calling aren't as adroit, though, giving this creature an advantage. Challenges arise when their crass opportunism and blatant disregard for coworkers' well being become transparent. Trust annihilated, they find themselves increasingly isolated. That activates their mad manipulative skills, the schemer turning into a charmer who woos, or a victim who empathizes, making themselves likable through inspirational leadership or syrupy commiseration. They disarm their naive teammates not to help, but ultimately to hinder. How to recognize them. The ability to identify manipulative schemers is inversely proportional to their skills in manipulation and scheming. Assuming that all your colleagues are backstabbing is a reliable best practice, so treat your whole team accordingly and watch for the telltale signs. They are out to get you. Specifics include the feeling that you're being relentlessly scrutinized and that shit is being talked about you behind your back. The more they turn up the heat, the less they'll admit things getting hot for you, and the more they'll deny it if questioned. So take your team's temperature frequently. How to thwart them. Manipulative schemers play chess with your career, forcing you to either 1, improve your game, 2, ignore the game entirely, or 3, try and flip the entire board over. Unless you're also a manipulative schemer type, the first is disadvantageous. So ignore them or try to take them out if you have the clout. Along the way, be very, very careful. A popular approach to office jujitsu is to shut the fuck up, work hard, and fly under the radar. A manipulative schemer will then use you as a tool for their own benefit and usually leave you alone until your diligence and effort get you promoted, in which case they'll wreak revenge with visceral vengeance. Stay alert. Backstabbing Colleague 2, the chronic victim. Let's contrast the most dangerous type of backstabbing colleague with the most disarming, those who constantly whine and complain. Everything is always broken, everyone else is always to blame, and nothing is ever their fault. Don't be fooled by their apparent unhappiness. They are using you. Akin to a skilled poker player, chronic victims distract the competition with lots of noise and falsely convey a sense of cluelessness. Dismissed as obviously incompetent and emotionally frail, this type is then in the perfect position to make their decisive move when you least expect it. Aware that their apparent professional impotence can backfire into a demotion or getting fired, this type uses their dependencies to forge surprisingly effective peer relationships. Whether through pity, humor, or lack of being a perceived threat, chronic victims have powerful allies. Shameless and unscrupulous, this type of backstabbing colleague flips from loser to winner at the drop of a hat. At the right moment, hidden skills manifest with amazing alacrity. Their team realizes too late that despite being genuinely incompetent, the chronic victim suddenly rules the roost. How to recognize them. A funny and true poker tip is to look for the loser sitting around the table. If you can't find them, then that loser is you. Same rules apply for the chronic victim, the disarming yet dangerous type of backstabbing colleague who is easy to observe even as their deceptions remain hidden. Being a loser is their paradoxical strength. They aren't faking it when they throw up their arms in utter dismay, unable to do their jobs because of smoke and mirrors excuses that call them out. Keep in mind that anyone else would hide their flaws. They are being strategic by revealing them. How to thwart them. For other types of backstabbing colleagues, their strengths become their weaknesses. For this type, their weaknesses are their weaknesses, your chance to gain an edge. At the very least, keep tabs on their failures, which are frequent, vast, and damaging. If possible, let them crash and burn. Friendships with company apex predators is another point of vulnerability for the chronic victim, but exercise caution. They have the big cheese's ear, so you can expose a rat, while also careful not to call into question the character of a powerful person who's chosen to befriend a useless turd. Backstabbing Colleague 3, the condescending dirtbag. The first two backstabbing colleague types fall on opposite ends of the power range, so you usually find them above you or below you, respectively, on the org chart. The next two types are particularly annoying and threatening because they tend to compete directly against you. Enter the condescending dirtbag, the know-it-all colleague constantly trying to get under your skin. Their false sense of self-confidence is directly proportional to their true incompetence. The former used to obfuscate the latter while making you feel inferior and unworthy. Avoid outsmarting their stupidity, since the condescending dirtbag is still smarter than the clueless blowhard, who tends to be louder and dumber. In contrast, the condescending dirtbag loves to smell their own farts, which they think is like a bouquet of roses. They will try to trigger you into doing something even dumber than them. Devoid of decency, the condescending dirtbag is also utterly lacking in tact, which can lead to their undoing if inadvertently directed against someone higher up on the ladder. The opposite of the chronic victim, the condescending dirtbag tends to piss off the boss and will hopefully get fired before you do. How to recognize them? Condescending dirtbags initially come across as helpful and empowering colleagues, but their ruse is shallow and doesn't last. Watch for the flip, which happens at that point in the project when their competence or self control is exhausted, whichever comes first. From that point on, they act like clueless blowhards. Note that the condescending dirtbags can be subtle in their condescension while still being total dirtbags. Ask yourself, why is this colleague whom I expect to be backstabbing me instead being so helpful and supportive? The answer, they're killing you with kindness until your own career is dead. How to thwart them. Every interaction with a condescending dirtbag is like an impossible coin flip. Heads I win, they say, and tails you lose. Their game is rigged, don't play. And since their ego is the frailest of all the backstabbing colleague types, work your own manipulative scheming magic to crush them. Backstabbing Colleague 4. The Clueless Blowhard. The bottom of the backstabbing colleague ecosystem is this type, which is the worst characteristics of them all and is typically the least successful. Their uncanny ability to be manipulative, scheming, condescending, vile, stupid, and loud is their unique superpower, wielding its own brand of shock and awe. Under exceptional circumstances and when well orchestrated, such an amalgamation of loathsome qualities can propel such a creature to the pinnacle of power. Donald J. Trump, our generation's prime example. The embodiment of everything shitty, they become a projection of all of our hatred. The vast majority of clueless blowhards are far less fortunate, though, forced to play the role of making everyone else look good and becoming tools for their backstabbing colleagues' squid games. Impressionable because they're clueless and impactful because they're noisy, the clueless blowhard is fair game for everyone. Despite their disadvantages, even the lowliest of clueless blowhards have been known to pull a fast one. Since the squeaky wheel tends to get greased, their reckless bravado gets noticed and is sometimes interpreted as enthusiasm, even ability. So don't be surprised if a clueless blowhard becomes your boss. How to recognize them. This type of backstabbing colleague is easiest to spot. You can't miss them. The louder and more brash they are, the stupider and more incompetent. As noted above, though, these obvious negative qualities don't necessarily lessen their imminent threat to you. Life is a circus, and the office is a jungle. Clueless blowhards are also identifiable in how they attract and repel certain types of other backstabbing colleague. For example, a clueless blowhard can be seen having lunch with a chronic victim, both blabbering on about nonsense, while you'll rarely, if ever, see one socializing with a manipulative schemer. How to thwart them. Another funny and true lesson is from the classic story of two guys in the woods who come across a bear, one guy putting on running shoes. You know those won't enable you to outrun the bear, says the other. I don't need to outrun the bear, says the runner. I just need to outrun you. Since the clueless blowhard combines all the worst qualities of the chronic victim and condescending dirtbag, let the manipulative schemer take them out. Your professional life becomes much less stressful if you stand back and allow your backstabbing colleagues to backstab each other. Backstabbing colleagues, almost as bad as romantic partners. I hope you found these profile descriptions and workplace strategies as helpful as they were cathartic for me to share. Given their popularity, I'll continue to add to this illuminating series with the 4 types of impossible client and expand into the realm of romance with the 4 types of terrible lover. For now, I hope you've enjoyed this workplace analysis from the top to the middle. How awful it has been. How awful it will continue to be because most humans are competitive and shitty and obsessed by money, power, and perhaps mostly their status, what other people think of them, even if they are asshole bosses at the top and backstabbing colleagues in the middle. Now, for a refreshing change of pace after listening to this podcast, why don't you visit LinkedIn, where you can scroll endlessly in a tsunami of Vanity Fair doom as bosses and colleagues and competitors bloviate about all of their grand accomplishments and exciting news, sharing their captivating thought leadership. Blech. Thanks for listening to the Bald and Bloviating podcast. I feel so awful making myself sick that it feels so good to release. Now, back to work.